Good morning, Christy.
Good morning.
How's it going?
It is going well. I'm going to turn my camera on and make sure.
Okay,
See me?
I do. Looking beautiful as ever.
Same. How was the wedding? Or
Um,
flower? What did you have?
I didn't have a wedding. I'm planning my daughter's
Planning a
wedding.
wedding. I thought you went away. Where did you go? You went to something fun.
I went to Florida to see my daughter,
That's
and
why.
she was trying on her wedding dress.
That's what
It
it
was
was.
a
Sorry.
fitting, yes. So that's coming in October.
Oh, that's so lovely. What a
Yeah.
beautiful time of the year, too.
Yes, it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be in Tulsa at Philbrook Museum, and it's a beautiful ground, so it's just going to be gorgeous.
Oh, that's so nice. So excited
Yeah.
for you. Can you see my
So,
screen okay?
what's that?
Can you see my screen okay? Just wanted to make sure.
Yes, I do. And
Perfect.
then, so what I was thinking is, so we didn't have one last month. We paused for a month in between, and so I thought when we kick off the call, I can just say, "Hey, welcome back. Hope you had a great summer. Thanks for joining us for. We have a great lineup, and how do you want me to introduce? Do you want me to say Christy?
Christy's
Uh,
fine. Totally fine.
Christy with. Do you want me to say with Magnolia with Linkit?
I think
Um,
I think Magnolia is fine.
okay, with Magnolia Consulting.
Yep, that's perfect.
Okay, I'll say Christy with Magnolia Consulting will be leading our presentations for the fall series. And then, do you want to introduce yourself? Would that be
Yeah, I'll do a quick intro. I'll also just chat and let them know Katie will be on for certain sessions as well. And then yeah, we'll get started.
okay? Awesome. And I can drop a flyer in the chat that will have the lineup too and a QR code, which actually they won't need that QR code, but um, Paige is going in and adding those titles in our Zoom, each month's Zoom, so that they know the title of it. So
Um,
it'll be good.
Look at you guys. Very exciting.
Yes. All right. Well, and I sent so what I she posted it on our hub and it went out to all of our districts. So they're supposed to get on. It's mandatory. And then
Part of the grant.
I can go through Zoom and resend their verification code. So I
Uh,
went through and resent like 250 people there so that it would be in their email this morning. Hey, so we'll see who shows up. Looks like we've got quite a few. So.
That's great. No, that's super exciting.
Okay. Well, I just want to make sure I have this PNG or this.
I'm gonna resh I'll let
Yeah.
everyone come in and then I'll share. I put the links in the chat. I'll repost them as well. And yeah, we should be
Okay.
good to go. Oh, I'm so excited. We've had so much rain here too. It's a beautiful day. So it's awesome.
Oh, we need rain so bad. We're so dry. And
We literally had like a monsoon on Tuesday. Like I'll send you a video. I actually recorded it. That's how bad it was. There was flooding everywhere. It was like sheets of rain. It was crazy.
oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, we'll send some your way.
Yes, we need it so bad, so badly. It's so dry and
I
hot
was so
here.
excited. I'm like, the sun, the sun.
Yes.
But yeah,
Okay.
I planned on, you had said about 45 minutes, so that's kind of what I planned on.
That's perfect. That'll be great.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, okay. And then you're the only one, right? No Katie today.
Just me. Yep.
Just you. Okay.
Katie is doing a MTSS district setup today.
Oh, nice, nice.
Yeah,
We've
we
been visiting the last 2 weeks. We've been in a district every day,
yep.
getting
Yep.
them set up for their, establishing some goals and getting them kicked off. So,
We're doing the same. That's where Katie is. She's got a great group today that just has a lot of stuff and it's just not all working together yet.
yes. Okay. Do you usually like to let people in a few minutes early or wait
Yeah,
till like
that's totally fine.
you want to go ahead and
Can
let
I?
them in?
I don't know if I can let
See,
people.
we've got 24 in the waiting room so far. So,
Let me see if I can. So I don't have access to the waiting room.
oh, okay, I can do that.
Thank you.
Let
I
them in.
appreciate it. Here they come.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. I see a lot of familiar faces.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. I love it. You guys get on and start waving. Love the energy. Everyone's like, we're ready.
We're like, hey. Well, we'll wait just a minute and let a couple more people join before we get kicked off here. Let's see.
Everyone's enjoying. Good morning.
Who's this Christy lady? Who's this Christy lady?
I will introduce myself, I promise. Gotta love
Good
those.
morning. Have some people, quite a few still joining, so we'll wait just a minute so we don't miss anything.
People
Well,
aren't turning their cameras on. A lot of people have to do something here.
Okay, it is 9 o'clock, so to make good use of your time, we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for joining today. Christy and I are so excited. We have developed a really great fall session, so we're so happy that you're here at this first one to get kicked off with us. So I will let Christy introduce herself in just a minute, and then I'm going to hand it over to you or to her. She is going to lead the presentation, setting up data teams and assessment cycles. Um, you'll want to follow the next 5 months. We have defining types of assessments within an MTSS system in September. We have the science of reading and practice in Tier 1 data analysis in October. November, we'll be talking about using Tier 1 data to create your small groups. And in December, using literacy progress monitoring. And so each one will build on the previous one. And so it's going to be fabulous. I know if you, some of you have sat in on some of Christy's presentations at the MTSS conferences, and she's amazing. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Christy and we'll get kicked off.
all right, awesome. Hi, Marlo. Thank you so much for having me today. Hi, everyone. I see some familiar faces. How many of you were at was it the summer conference, right? I was there with Katie Leo. I don't know if anyone came to our sessions or saw us. So I'm so excited. Believe it or not, this series, I had the opportunity to work with Marlo and the team, and this actually came out of the survey results that many of you posted oh no, Carrie, you didn't get to go? Well, guess what? You're going to get 5 sessions of it, which is very exciting. So we're bringing it to you remotely. That's what we're going to do. But this beginning session actually came out of my data team session that I ran. I don't know if anyone joined that, but everyone said, Christy, one of the areas we're struggling with is getting our data team set up. And then also really understanding functions of data teams at Tier 1, and then what is assessment cycles and what does that look like? So Marlo and I had the opportunity to kind of work together to really bring you something that I think is hands-on, practical, like let's just do the work and do it together. And hopefully this guide will help you guys to get these things set up. It also aligns with sustainable teaming. So that is something that I know Marlo's been working with you all on. So this is like the how-to crash course guide. And then we'll continue to build on that every time we get together over the next 5 sessions or so. Just a little bit about me for those of you, it's your first time meeting me. My name is Dr. Christy Schutz-Vincelli. I got the opportunity to work with your amazing team for the last year. Got to visit Oklahoma in January and also June. We'll be back again in January for the next conference. So for those of you that weren't there, I would love to say hi. So come visit us again in January. But we're going to be doing a lot of support partnership throughout the year to really support you guys as implementing the OKMTSS model. That's pretty much my life and been my life for the last 7 years, is supporting districts all across the country implementing MTSS. So I was just sharing with Marlo that in New Jersey, we've had nothing but monsoon rains over the last week. So I'm going to send some your way and you can send some sunshine our way. It's been a little crazy. But other than that, we're going to get started. So in the chat box, I did post the link for the slide deck. So feel free to grab that. I'm going to display my screen in a moment. And then from there, we will jump into the packet that I created, which is a fillable PDF. So you'll be able to kind of work through that as we go. And I'm going to share my screen and we'll get started. The chat box, I like to say, is open. So please feel free if you have questions. If you're like, Christy, can you repeat that? I am all about it. This is your session. So feel free to drop anything in the chat that's helpful and questions that you all have. So the tiny URL for the slide deck is OKMTSS August 5th. But again, the link to that is in the chat box for you to access. Everyone see my screen okay? All right, amazing. So we're going to start with one of the core components of building an MTSS structure in your schools. Specifically, like I said, setting up data teams and making sure that they're sustainable throughout the year. One of my rules of thumbs when I was a principal was that if I didn't find the time now, the time never existed. And so what I always say, I know you're all going, yep, because the reality is once the school year kicks off and you guys are in your day-to-day, finding time, it's not going to happen. There's just no time to find once we're back in the swing of things. So what I want us to do is think about how we can proactively put things in place or structures in place. So even though sometimes we have to tweak the time and the purpose of the time, at least the time exists. So we're going to go through that today so that you have the building perspective of it. We also need to understand how many of you have your universal screening cycle set up. So I know a lot of you are using Amira. Some of you guys have Dibbles. Anything else that you're all using? Are those mostly the core ones? So think about those assessments that you're giving 3 times. Okay, perfect. NWA, STAR, IXL. Okay, awesome. Perfect. All those big assessments, I like to call them, right? Those should be set up 3 times a year. And so what we want to talk about is once we give those assessments, then we have a data team meeting. Then this is what happens at a data team meeting, and then so on and so, throughout the year. Oh, awesome, Donna. I love that. So we have our dates in place for that. So if you guys already have your dates in place, you might actually just want to double check that all the dates are there. You might also want to add some additional components that I'm going to refer to, like a mid-cycle check-in, and making sure that we're using those progress monitoring cycles. So I think everything that you all have is great. So we're going to talk through that as well. Who's on your data teams? Data team timelines. And then certainly that communication piece. So again, this will just be an introduction, but we're going to continue this throughout the next 5 sessions. Okay. Is there anything else that you all want me to address today? Any burning questions? Feel free to drop those in the chat as well. While you're doing that, just really quickly, like I said, we are going to be focusing on the sustainable teaming component. Because the sustainable teaming component of your MTSS model is the piece that if that is not in place, it's like we visited Texas this summer, and on the pier there was this huge roller coaster, and my son was like, well, he's like, if I go on this roller coaster and the pylons under the pier aren't strong, I guess I'm going down. I was like, yeah, pretty much. So we had this funny moment, and it's the same thing as MTSS, right? If we don't build those strong pylons, now granted, we don't want the roller coaster, or maybe that's education, I don't know, above the pier, that pier is certainly going to have, that we're not gonna have that base in order to get this process moving. So when I think about, maybe that was a terrible analogy, but at least I got some smiles. When you think about building an MTSS or a sustainable system, you really have to make sure that the time is there, your assessments are there, and your teams are set up for success. And that's really going to be the core focus for us today. There's so much we could talk about, but again, super important. So within sustainable teaming, there's 4 core components. One is, who are my leaders on the call? You guys are critical to these data teams. And I always say, and I say this with love, there's so much going on, totally understand that. But what's really important is if our leaders are not there and showing the worth and importance to them, a lot of the other staff will say, if they don't have time for this, why should I? Right? That's human nature. So you being there, and I'm asking guys for 3 times a year of sustained attention. And if we do this really well, folks, we're talking about 2 hours or less if we can do it well. Now, in the beginning, with training, it's going to take a little longer. But my teams that really know how to do this work, guys, we're talking 2 hours or less. And my secondary folks, anyone secondary, I'm telling you, the data teams at the secondary level can be an hour or less because they have a lot more of that analysis in their brains. So that being said, I want us to aim for being proficient and being efficient, so my 2 words of the day, within that time. Because if they're long and drawn out, you're going to lose focus, lose attention. Folks are going to get like, I can't look at data anymore. It's like data draining, right? So being there, being present, guys, is going to be critical to this as well. Having multidisciplinary teams. So this is going to come down to who's on your team, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Then we're going to slowly get into what does a data team meeting look like. And for those of you that visited my session in the I want to say spring, but it was really summer. It was June. One of the things I said is if you don't leave with an action plan of some sort, it's really not a data team, it's a data conversation. So something for you all to think about is what is the outcome of that meeting? What is that item that folks are going to walk away and commit to at the end of this to say, this is where we are and this is where we need to go by our middle of the year screening cycle. And then, of course, all of you that are our coaches, our support personnel, our teachers, anyone that's supporting the instructional component to this is also going to be critical in terms of, those components. Questions for me on any of those core fundamental areas? Make sense so far? All right, amazing. So I have a quick fill in the blank because I always love to do a good chat blast. So question for you, what is your role as a leader in MTSS? So as it refers to sustainable teaming, what do you think your role is? We will do a quick share, but we'll do that in the chat. Just fill in the blank for me. What is your role as a leader in MTSS? I'll give you guys a minute if you want to pop that into the chat. That would be great. Carrie, you're quick. So the data analysts love that. Yeah, facilitation, that's a great one. Vision, huge, huge. I love that. Initiating and facilitating the processes, being a supporter, absolutely. Yeah, doing things with fidelity, guiding teams to be efficient. I also like to say you have to go in prepared and knowing in advance what needs to be the outcome. Very important. The structural elements, which is what we're going to focus on today, right? Making sure all the structures are in place for your folks to be able to do this really well. Yes, absolutely. And you're wearing many hats too. It's not just one of them. You're going to have about 27 of them on. I don't know how, that's why they fall off sometimes. Like, which hat am I wearing today? When I was the director of special services, some days I'd walk in, I'm like, am I the school nurse today, the counselor, or the principal? Tell me who you need me to be, and I'll put that hat on. So you're certainly all wearing many different types of hats. But when it comes to your sustainable teamings hat, the piece I want us to think about are really 3 things. 1, structure. 2, assessments and data analysis. And then 3, leading the team, not telling the team ultimately where they need to be. So you're really that active observer. Someone said a facilitator. I love that. Those are the words that we really want to think about when you're leading through the MTSS process. One of the biggest mistakes that I made when I started leading my MTSS teams was I was the keeper of the data. I was the one that knew it. I was the one that was telling them what we needed to do with it. Instead, what I started to realize is then they don't own it. So your leadership role is to make sure that it's not just your data, but that becomes a shared, someone said shared vision, right? A shared vision of what it is that we want folks to accomplish. The stronger your teams are at data analysis and understanding, guess what also starts to change? Instructional practice. Because now I know that that data is telling me that there's a phonics issue. I may not know how to fix it immediately, but they at least can say to you, hey, I need a little support because we know that the data is suggesting there's a phonics need, right? And then we all work on that goal together, which is the best way to do things in education. So what we want to think about for my principals or any of my leaders here is setting the vision, making sure that support in place, also protecting resources. Did you notice the first resource I mentioned is time? That's the one that it's so funny when I think resources, I always think like textbooks and materials and things like that. But the thing, folks, that we're missing the most is time. And one of the things I say to leaders is please protect the time, because if we don't protect the time goes away, we get distracted, and then we lose student progress over time. Critical piece. Again, we're not the keepers of the data. We are the facilitators of the data analysis. And then, of course, someone said, accountability. Okay. Within this, and I won't spend too much time here, these are more references for you all, but we are shifting folks back to this era from management to instructional leadership. I don't know if anyone feels that shift, but there's a lot of responsibility for us to make sure that we are moving folks along, not only from the data analysis and the day-to-day organization and management of a classroom, but to knowing when I have a data issue or something in my data doesn't make sense, how do I instructionally fix that? And for all of you, now we're not experts in everything, certainly, but you also have to know who your experts are. So if there is a math instructional issue and the data is suggesting that, you have an expert or someone that can support those teachers with doing that. So that's really the shift, folks, that MTSS is providing. And truthfully, if you look nationally at MTSS is up here, meaning everything that you do in your districts moving forward is going to fall under MTSS because it's the instructional framework that we're using to make decisions. So I was having a conversation with, at a high school the other day, and I said they were going to change an assessment. And I said, great, did you talk to the middle school about what that's going to do to their instructional flow? And they were like, oh, yeah, we should probably talk about that. I said, remember, we're talking systemic, we're talking big decisions. So that's part of this idea of instructional leadership. All right, questions on the quick overview. I wanted to make sure I attached this to your instructional framework. So now we can talk about my favorite tier ever, which is which one? Tier 1, my absolute favorite. It's funny, I was at another conference a couple weeks ago, and they were like, Christy, we want to talk about intervention. I'm like, I'm going to talk about tier 1. They're like, oh, when are we going to talk about the students that need intervention? I'm like, I have to be honest with you guys, that should be this much of the system that we're building. So that's why, yes, certainly we need to, at some point, there are students that need intervention, 100%. However, if you're tier 1, go back to my analogy, right, with the roller coaster on the pier, if your tier 1 isn't meeting the needs of most of your students, you're going to have inflated tier 2 and tier 3 numbers, which, to be honest with you guys, is the opposite of sustainable teaming. That is a system that is flipped upside down that is not going to be sustainable. I don't care how many interventionists you have, coaches, any support staff, teachers, there's no way you can service if you have 100 kids in a grade level, 50 kids in intervention. It's just not sustainable. And it also indicates what? That there's a problem with tier 1 instruction. So that's what we're going to really focus in on today, because the stronger your base is and your foundation and your core instruction, the good news is the less likely you are to have inflated numbers in tiers 2 and 3. And it also will help you understand which students really do require special education. There are disabled students out there for sure that require those services. But we also need to make sure that when they appear to be struggling, it's due to a true disability having an impact, not just a lack of instruction in that area. And that's where folks nationwide, if you look at the recent information being put out in special education, as we get better at intervention, there's a lot of kids becoming declassified because their classification was based on just a lack of instruction, filled the gap, and now they are where they need to be. So again, just things for you to think about big picture in terms of that strong tier. Because we want it to look like this, right? The dream. And this should, when you consider this pyramid, I'm going to focus a little more on literacy today, But this pyramid should look like this for behavior, right? So we should have most of our kids that are functioning in school well, that are safe, all of those things. This should be for our literacy instruction, and then this should be for my math folks, math instruction as well. So when you're thinking about your MTSS systems, we need to look at big picture, but we also have to look at those 3 instructional streams to make sure we're meeting those needs. Where does science and social studies fit? Because I get that question a lot. Science and social studies fits into either the ELA or the math, because those are the foundational skills you need to be able to read a primary source in a history class or be able to interpret data in a science lab. So again, even though we get to this place where, okay, well, I have science, history, social studies teachers, great, but those folks also need to be a part of this system. So when we get to anyone here from secondary, we are going to talk about the inclusion of any science or social studies teachers that you do have. Okay. We don't want that, right? That meaning that there's so many students in need of support and intervention that we're actually over servicing students and not fixing core instruction. So that's really going to be our focus. All right, you guys ready? We're gonna kick into high gear. And what we are going to do is I created a downloadable PDF for you all. And it's literally a packet that aligns with your data teams for your model. And we can literally fill it out together if you'd like, or I can explain it to you today and you can leave and kind of work on it with your building teams or whoever in your district. And Marlo and the team, of course, can follow up and help you guys fill these out as well. So I'm going to minimize my screen for a second. I'm going to put this link in the chat for you. It's also in the slide deck, but you should be able to pull up. It says Data Team Setup Guide. Now, in order to do the fillable PDF, you do have to download it. So just know that and then open it back up on your computer. But you can certainly also just follow along with me as well. So I'll give everyone a minute, make sure you can access it because we are going to walk through setting up data teams, getting some dates in there, and then really understanding what this looks like from a systematic structural perspective. Okay. Let me know if you have any needs getting it. I'll give you guys a minute. By the way, this is yours. So if you want to make copies of it, share it with other folks in your buildings after this, please feel free. We really, Marlo and I really wanted to make sure you had something tangible that you could use. And a lot of districts that we use this with will say, Christy, we filled out your packet. I'm like, great. And they do it every year. It's just like best practices to make sure all the bones are in place before the school year kicks off. All right, everyone good so far? Able to at least get the packet, open the packet? Oh, good, Christine. That makes my heart happy. I had so much fun. I know. Okay, I'm going to nerd out for a second. I had so much fun working with Marlo to make this packet. It was, I was a little bit like I said about me. I was a teacher and a school administrator for a very long time. And one of the things that was always challenging for me was I was like, okay, I understand the why, but tell me the how. So we are doing the how today, guys. We're going all in. And like I said, we're probably not going to get every piece done today, but at least you'll have a nice start into what this looks like. So I'm going to flip back and forth. And then we'll go back and then I'll give you guys a couple minutes to ask questions. And if you want to fill this out with us here, great. Again, it's also a tangible for you as well. So what you have in front of you is us really thinking about addressing tier 1. So what is a data team? A data team is your core group of people. Now they're going to have purposes in tier 2 and 3. I just want to put that out there, but I'm not focused on that today. So take that, put that to the shelf. We're going to do more of that in the next coming sessions. I need a group of stakeholders that are available to meet to look at my universal screening data, all the things you mentioned, Amira, iReady, all those assessments, whatever you have, NWEA, all the things, to look at how are we progressing across tier 1 over time, and are there any gaps that you see that are grade level wide? So what this data team is doing is monitoring your pylons under the pier. They're making sure that your base is always moving in the right direction. Now, data team 1 is looking at your baseline. Data team 2, which is after your winter universal screener, is going to measure what? Any thoughts? Data team 2 is my favorite one. I'm not going to lie. I love the second data team. Growth, growth. So data team 1 is, hey, this is where we are. This is the probable area that we're going to need to support. I'm just going to use phonics or fluency, right? Because we're in literacy brain for a little bit. If you are a math person, numbers sense. If you're in the secondary level, it might be a standard, but it might be a prerequisite of that standard, right? We'll get into more of that. But the reality is, I'm picking something that we as a grade level are going to work on and monitor, intervening as a grade level, and then monitoring that growth mid-year. So that's why data team B is my favorite one. Okay. So you're looking at the effectiveness of your core instruction, your system trends. Are you year after year seeing a need in the area of phonics, right? How fluently are your students reading? What does that look like? Are there needs that apply to the majority? This is my favorite part of MTSS, guys. I was in a classroom over the summer. We had a summer school that we were supporting. I walked in and I said to the teacher, how's it going? She goes, Christy, I have 22 kids in here and 22 individual plans. I was like, okay. I was like, that's not going to work. So we sat down. She had a couple of minutes when the students left. And I said, can I see your data? She goes, yeah. Literally, out of those students, 17 of them needed the same support. So I said, instead of doing all these individual plans, could we just do one plan and apply it to all the kids? She goes, that makes so much sense. So I want you to think of it that way, folks. Your teachers have so much to do with all of the kids in their classrooms. They're not going to be able to manage 22 different plans. So what we want to think about is there something that the majority of the students need that we can work on together, right? Collectively, and do so really well and really methodically with our instruction. So we're going to really think about those strengths and those gaps. We're going to adjust the core instruction first, and then we'll shift that instructional focus or decide on what that instructional focus is. Okay, so really the purpose of those tier 1 data teams is what we're doing. I put a little chart in here too, and this is also in your manual, which is what is a data team? Okay. And there's a couple of things that are super important as you guys are really thinking through setting your data teams up that we need to think about. So a data team, guys, is focused on tier 1. Eventually, they should have some say, obviously, into students in need of tier 2 and tier 3. But what you learn in tier 1 may actually shift who goes into tier 2 and 3. That's where the over identification piece comes in. So it's really focused on core instruction. Okay. It's reoccurring schedule tied to the screening calendar. So if you have those dates for your screeners available, that would be fantastic. And it's a place where they leave with a documented plan. So you have to walk away, and I'm going to give you a model. It's actually in that packet of something that you can complete. Again, it's just a sample data protocol. It's actually adapted. I don't know if anyone's familiar with DataWise from Harvard, but it's adapted from that. And it is a data decision-making protocol with an action. We do a lot of, myself included, talking about data, but my question is, what are we doing about it? How are we actually moving students along the continuum? Because talking about it, folks, what we're finding is folks don't know where to go with it. Okay, there's a phonics issue. Okay, great. I've acknowledged there's a phonics issue. I'm like, okay, what are we doing differently? I don't know. All right, great. Well, let's talk about that, right? There are some really good practices and best practices in phonics instruction. There are really good practices for anyone doing phonemic awareness or Haggerty with my littles. There's really important practices that go along with building that skill. That is a prerequisite for literacy development. So there's a lot of those components, and that's what this is all about. Again, what it is not, it's a meeting only to refer students for tiers 2 and 3. Sometimes when I walk into data teams, that's what we see. I'm like, where's tier 1? Help. It's not also a one and done, folks. This should become part of the way we do things around here. In fact, one of our districts that we've been working with for a couple of years now, they were telling me that the teachers are so used to getting their data team cycles now that they're just like, where's my sheet? So they were like, where's my data team planning sheet? So the teachers now know when the data teams are, which PLC they're going to use to talk about the tier 1 plan. Like, it's just predictable for them, and they love it because they know in advance, they know what to expect. everyone likes expectation, right? They like to know what we're doing. So those are some things that we'll talk about because there is a component to teacher follow-up. So let me stop here really quickly. Questions about the function of a data team, because now we're going to get into the when and the who. Oh, good. I'm so glad. That packet, honestly, I am so glad. It really was something I wanted to, it came from like that deep down educator in me that said, how do we make sure you guys feel comfortable with getting all this set up? So thank you. Appreciate your feedback. Okay, so let's talk about when data teams meet. And this is going to be your first page. So it's actually section 2. So I'm going to flip between these for a second. So if you go, so I have, this is that exact table I was telling you about that's in the slides. But if you go to page 4, it also says data team meeting calendar. Let's talk through, and I'll give you guys a couple of minutes if you have questions. Let's talk through what this looks like. Now, full disclosure, if you have data teams, you'll probably be able to fill these in a little bit quicker. For my folks that don't have data teams yet, that's okay. You're going to probably have to have a follow-up conversation about when some of these pieces happen. But data team meeting cadence, folks, after you close your universal screening cycle, so let's say, you're giving your assessments, what week are you guys giving them? End of August? Yeah, about the end of August. Okay. So let's say you're giving at the end of August, within a 1 to 2 week window, you should be having a data team meeting because otherwise the assessments become outdated. Teachers will tell you, oh, but I've taught since then. There's lots of things. So don't wait to have a data team meeting. So this first box here, I'm making a date up, so don't marry yourself to this. But basically, what you're going to say is, okay, so my window closes on X date. Here's when we're going to have our data team meeting. So you're going to do that for 3 times. You're going to do one meeting after your fall. You're going to do one meeting. Do you give yours in December? You're just in about for your December window? Yeah. So I'm just going to I'll put it right before, I'll put December 15th. I don't know about you guys. I don't actually want to think about December right now, but here we are mapping out the year. And then spring, you guys are probably giving them end of April, May-ish. So I'm just going to make a date up, but certainly, again, I'm just going to say 4/30/27. Yikes. Okay. So you want to get those 3 dates immediately set up. So if you have them set up, awesome. Just plug them in if you'd like. If you don't have them set up, this is a great opportunity to say, okay, our window's closing here. Let's set up those dates. Now, something else, guys, and then I'll pause for a second if you have any questions. Something else, okay, that you want to think about is you don't need every single kid's data within that data set. What do I mean? You need the majority. You know how kids are absent, they don't come to school, they miss the window, what have you. Don't panic. If you don't have every single kid's data in, that's fine. We just need the majority because we're looking at trends. You're never going to have 100% when your window closes. I mean, certainly we need more of their data for tiers 2 and 3 eventually. But for data team tier 1, as long as you get the majority in, you're good. Okay, let me stop there for a minute. Questions on data team meetings. So 3 times a year following your universal screener window closure. Thumbs up if you're good so far.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Who would you recommend would be the people that are invited to those meetings at different sites and various sites? There's always fluctuation in what a building deems as a necessary person. So who would you suggest are the absolute core people that need to be there, and then maybe some peripheral people that would be nice to have there?
Absolutely. And actually, we're going to get there on page 3 and 4. We're going to actually talk about those roles and the who, which will be great. Now, for my folks that are elementary, I'm going to say it's probably the same people more so. For my secondary, we're going to want to work a little more cross-departmentally. So we're going to want to think about if you're departmentalized and you have someone that teaches, science, math, history, and so on, we're going to want to talk about bringing in some of those folks as well. I'm also going to be very conscious of the fact that it's very difficult to cover teachers and find coverage during the day. So I'll give you some creative options. But I will say this just to answer one quick thing about your question. guys, I would definitely recommend having teacher leaders or some way to get your teachers involved as much as possible. The stronger they become data, let's say data literate and great with your data, the stronger your instruction across the board is going to be. But yes, we're going to get to that in a moment. Great question. So everyone's good with their data team meetings, the initial one. Now here's where we're going to build on. During your data team meetings, who's creating right now a tier 1 plan or some sort of plan that you walk away with and say, after this is what we're all committing to? And if not, this will be another thing we are going to talk about at one of our follow-up webinars. So on page 9, there's one for elementary, and then on page 8, 12. Sorry, I was looking at the numbers in my thing versus the numbers on the actual PDF. But anywho, there is a tier 1 action plan template, one for secondary and one for elementary. One of your little, I'll call it a follow-up assignment because no one likes homework, but is to take a look at this and just become familiar with it. This is something, folks, that when you leave a data team meeting, you should have this completed with your team. This is the goal of the team. So now I'm going to back into your question of the who. Who can help you do this work is the question. And I'll give you some general folks that usually can, but as you know, to your point, there are some districts that have coaches, some that don't. There's some that have specific interventionists, some that don't. Some that have VPs, some that don't. So my question ultimately is who in your building and or district, depending on what role you're in, can help you to actually walk away with this completed. Now, my joke is the first one is going to be a big mess. It's going to be messy. It's not going to be filled out correctly. Honestly, folks, it's not important. What's important is folks are committing to something together and they're along for the ride. And the ride will get much more smooth or you'll ride much smoother. Did I say that right? As the year goes on. So that's the piece, because folks will say, well, okay, we're talking about data. I'm like, yeah. So what subject area are you addressing? What standard within that standard? What's the skill area that you're addressing? What's your data observation? So I actually put some examples in here for you with your OK standards so you can kind of just see generally. You're going to be using your Amira data, your map data, whatever it is that you have, fill in the blank, right? Why did you pick the skill or the standard, right? What was the main point of why you picked that? Now, folks, sometimes your teachers and your data teams are going to pick the wrong thing. Remember I talked about instructional leadership? That's your job, is to figure out, did they pick the right thing or not? And how do I lead them to a place where they recognize I can't address reading comprehension if the students aren't reading fluently and there might be a phonics issue. So that's the place for that instructional leader brain that I'm thinking you all, really have to be a big part of. So please absorb these. This is the why of a data team. These are those, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. These are what we call tier 1 plans. A lot of our districts will take these and they'll use them for the first couple meetings just to have a starting point, a conversation about the data and an action with the data. And then they'll say, Christy, can I tweak this a little bit? Great. As long as you have all the elements, it meets all the criteria that you guys need. Okay, questions about the tier 1 plan? Good so far. So you could call it data protocol, data action, however you'd like to phrase it, but it's not a data team meeting until you've created a data team plan of action. Okay, because this is what's going to help us build our core instruction. P.S. It's also a grade level version of a tiered intervention plan, so stay tuned. That will come as we get into the upper tiers of intervention. Okay, so let me go back to our dates. So now that you kind of have a vision of what that tier 1 plan is, after you have the data team meeting, you need to create your tier 1 plan. You have to share the plan with the rest of your staff. So in other words, if you don't have every teacher on that team, which I suspect you won't, how are you going to get that information shared out? What does that look like? So here is where, so let's just hypothetically say that my data team meeting is on August 29th. Then I'm going to want to share that plan out. And how do I share that plan? A faculty meeting, a PLC, a grade level meeting. You guys have to kind of look at your calendars and figure out what's going to come up quick. Again, this is why I said if we don't plan it now, the time doesn't exist. and that faculty meeting will get eaten up by X, or that team meeting will get taken over by Y, right? Fill in the blank. So think about, you can type in faculty meeting on, I'm just making this up, 9, I don't know, 12, 26. So however you want to do it, you need to designate a time, okay, to share out that plan. And again, apply all to winter, apply all to spring, okay? Then after you share it, you have to put it into action. So if we're going to talk about it on 9/12, we're going to say that everyone's starting this tweak of instruction on 9/13. Now it could be a couple days after. I'm just plugging dates in for sample. Okay. All right. The plan goes into place. Here's the key. Tier 1 plan progress monitoring. So we'll do more about this when we get into progress monitoring. Once you put a tier 1 plan into place, halfway through the cycle, you need to have a time where the teachers are giving some sort of progress monitor, which Amira or any of those things have already. So you don't have to go find something else. We just have to structure it to say, hey, teachers, on, I don't know, let's say November 2nd, you're going to give the following progress monitor. And then you're going to use a PLC. So I'm going to put PLC time to talk about the results. Why? Because guess what? If you hit the goal early, don't keep going with the same goal. Let's adjust it. Or if you didn't hit the goal, why didn't we hit it? And what do we need to do differently? Or are we on our way? Okay. Does that make sense? So that's the mid-cycle check-in. And I will tell you from all the MTSS that I do all over the place, this is the piece that falls apart. And then teachers say, but Christy, we're still doing a goal and the kids have hit it. I'm like, okay, but how do you know that? I know. I'm like, you got to show me evidence, guys. That's what MTSS is all about. You've got to have evidence to support. If you're making a statement that Marlo's whole class have met the goal, you got to have a progress monitor to show me that they have, right? It's not enough anymore with all the literacy things that we know and development in math and number sense to just say, yep, I know. Okay, you got to show me. Okay. Let me stop there. Thoughts or questions? So this is, when are you giving the progress monitor? And then when are you reviewing the progress monitor? So that's your mid-cycle check-in. Okay. So I'm giving the progress monitor on, let's just say I'm making this up again. So let's say I'm giving it on November 15th. And you probably want to note what the progress monitor is. And then we are going to review during 11/22 PLC time. Okay. And by the way, that process, you just apply it again and then again. All right. Any questions about the dates? This is your instructional cycles, folks. This is when it's going to happen. This is the function of why we're doing what we're doing. And it's all set up for the year. Done. Sustainable. We're not finding time. We understand we have meetings for very specific data review with tier 1 and so on. I see everyone chatting. I hope that's a good chat, like thoughts and ideas and wonderings. All right, last piece I want to get to today is the who. Okay, the who. So we talked a little bit about, in general, the role and the function of a data team, which is to complete that tier 1 protocol. But for you all, I want you to start thinking about the who, and we'll follow up at our next webinar a little bit about what they need to be able to do and what their skill set is. Because what I will tell you is we're doing a lot of support with building knowledge and data literacy of the folks on our data team. So do expect that. That's really a part of being a data team member. And so in elementary, guys, typically we're doing grade level teams. So if you already have grade level team meetings, great. That is fine. Don't create more meetings. Oh my gosh, we have so many meetings in education. We don't need more committees or meetings. I don't know if anyone feels that way. I'll say the same thing when we get to the behavior side. If you have a school safety team, use that. We don't have to make another team, right? You already have the players there. I know that's one thing I always was struggling with. I was like, I can't make another committee because it's always the same people. Conversation for another day. So for my elementary folks, the one thing I would encourage you, perhaps if you're a K-5 is, you know, K1 and 2 have a lot of similarities in their data. 3, 4, and 5 have a lot of similarities in their data. If there's a way that you can group folks by grade level to the maximum extent, that would be fantastic. Kindergarten kind of lives on its own little island a little bit, especially at the beginning of the year, because you don't know who's coming in and what they have. But everyone else, I would say grade level teams would be fantastic. And for this year, albeit in the grand scope of MTSS, we're just going to focus in on the literacy component, but I don't want to forget about math because math is a part of this as well. But because of all the literacy components of this, the literacy is going to be kind of our brain for right now. Okay. Again, 3 times a year, my principals, my VPs, if you have any supervisors, please, like I said in the beginning, it's critical that you guys are there for these 3 meetings. They are like the epitome staple of MTSS. And then, of course, some gen ed teachers. A special ed teacher is great. Don't flip and have too many special ed teachers and not enough gen ed teachers because that also sets a tone. This is really general ed instruction components and conversation. If you have instructional components, you know, a school psychologist, those are wonderful people to have. If you have interventionists, great. If you have the ability for kinder to have a speech therapist, that would be fantastic. I know that's not always possible, but they are going to be critical in early language and literacy development conversations. So that would be great. And your school psychologists. For my secondary teams, we really did talk about having some separate teams here. So you may want to lump ELA and social studies together and math and science together. Why? Because what we hear a lot, I don't know if anyone hears this, but the ELA teachers are like, why is it always on me? Like, well, it's not. Because the reality is, where are they doing the most reading and writing is sometimes in science and social studies. And those texts are actually harder in complexity. So it is important if you have separate teachers to also have some social studies representation and also some science representation, because those folks also need to understand how reading and foundational math skills impact their content area. There is no reason why, if the area's vocabulary, a social studies or history teacher cannot incorporate morphology into how they introduce vocabulary. Okay. So again, that's why it's so important when we think about our data teams at the secondary level. If you're departmentalized, a lot of times folks will say, well, I just have my ELA teachers and I just have my math teachers. I'm like, well, where are the other folks? So just for my folks that are in either departmentalized grades or at the secondary level, just kind of keep that in the back of your mind as you're picking your members. Other advice, guys, and then we'll kind of wrap it up for our session today. Keep it smaller rather than larger. That's my other piece of advice. Train a really solid team, and then you can start expanding and having other folks. One of our districts that's been doing this work now for 3 to 4 years, they actually have grade level teachers rotate in and out because they all want to be a part of the process, which is awesome. But they did so much work with, here's your sustainable teaming, building that core team, and then slowly bringing in other folks. So don't go too big too quickly because you won't get the results that you want. And sometimes too many voices don't render render the results we would like to see overall. Okay. And then I just put here for you general roles and responsibilities. And what I would say, I'm a brainstorm gal, just brainstorm who those folks are and then take a look at that list. And then you could always monitor it. You can always tweak it. Listen, sometimes you're going to put a team together and at the end you're going to be like, uh-oh, this team did not work really well. Okay, great. So let's make some changes. It is all part of the growth and learning process. MTSS is really going to be bumpy, especially if you're in the beginning of it. But then as you start to get into those routines and structures, you will start to see things just fall into place. The key is going to be, I saw someone wrote data literacy. Data literacy is the key to MTSS. If it's math, it's ELA, it's behavior data. If you don't understand the data and what it means, we're not data literate, and then we can't take that action step. And for many of you, I would say that's probably what you're going to find in your first year of work. If this is your first introduction to data teams, if you have data teams, certainly that's probably some of the bumps you've hit. So, okay, we see the data, but what exactly do we do with it? Okay. And then I'll leave this last piece of homework with you. Sorry, I didn't say homework. I'll call it follow-up, which is what data points you're going to look at. This is going to bring us into the next. And many of you brought those up. Amira, you know, iReady, I heard NWEA MAP, I heard Dibbles, all of those assessments. Do yourself a favor, just write down all of them. Because for your first data teams, you probably only want to do 1 or 2 major data points.
Wow.
Okay. All right, everyone. Well, that's going to bring us to the end of our
Okay,
first
got it.
session today. Any
Okay.
thoughts, questions?
Thanks.
You
Bye.
are so welcome. I'm glad the templates are good. If you don't like something in them or you want me to add something, please give me your feedback. I really love feedback and I take everything you guys share with me as practitioners and try to put it into practice and make it better every time. So I think this is a nice starting point. What we'll do in our next sessions is just continue to build off of this. So if you could come to the next session, kind of what data points are you looking at? Who are your data team members and getting those dates filled out? That's an awesome, if you could get that done, that's going to be an amazing start to the year. And of course, you have your amazing team with Marlo and team to really get you guys going if you need additional follow-up. All right. Well, happy Wednesday. We're halfway through. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll hang on to if you have any other questions, but Marlo, back to you.
Oh my goodness. I think everyone would agree. This was wonderful. Great presentation. So helpful. I saw so many comments coming in about how helpful this is going to be. So thank you, Christy, for joining us. The templates and the guide that you shared is amazing. And so I can't wait to see what the one looks like for next time. And so I hope everybody enjoyed the call. Join us next month for defining types of assessments within an MTSS system. I'm sure there'll be a lot of great information and wonderful resources. Thank you all for hopping on. I missed some of your faces and I'll see some of you soon. So thank you so much.
Thank you all so much. Yes,
We'll
next.
stay on for a few minutes. If you have any questions, just feel free to pop them in there and we'll see if we can get them answered for you.
Perfect.
I saw one about the recording posted to YouTube, Marlo. We posted it.
Absolutely, yes. I meant to say that if some of your team were not able to get on today, we always record these and post them on our OCLSD YouTube channel. If you are part of the OCLSD grant, we add those are on the hub as well. Yes, great information to take back to your teams for sure.
Yes, and if I leave you with anything, get your data points all in that sheet because that's going to be kind of our next step next time we see you all. But I won't call it
Yeah.
homework. What's a good follow-up assignment?
I think that it's wonderful. It gives us something to work on and focus on for the next time. And then if we have any questions as we start to build that, we can bring that back to the call next month and get some clarification. So I think that's a wonderful plan.
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, if you have any questions after this, be sure you reach out to us here at the OCLSC team. We can see if we can guide you or provide whatever resources we have.
I do have a question. I'm pretty new to this. From my understanding, this ed plan is going to look different whenever this actually rolls out, right?
That's a great question. Actually, MTSS is not part of Ed Plan. I know there were plans for that to happen early on in the year. The piece that will be on there is for ELI, the Early Learning Inventory. But as far as MTSS, that will not be part of the Ed Plan dashboard.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. And to add to that, Tara, I think that information was shared out to district administrators and special ed directors for more information on that. So somebody should have an email about that.
I have a question about the Linkit platform. Is that something that the state's going to make available to all school districts for data management?
That is not something that the state is making available for data management, but it is something that districts can check into individually.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, it was good to see you, Marlo, and I see Emily popped on too.
You too, Christy. Have a great rest of the week. We can't wait to see you next time.
Yes, you guys
Thank
too.
you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hi, Marlo. Can I get your email?
Yes, it is Marlo, Marlo dot Lee, Lee, at sde.ok.gov. And I will actually put that in the chat in case anyone else wants to grab that.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Bye, girls. I just wanted to shout out and say hi.
Hi, Megan. I saw you on this morning, so good to see your face.
Hi, Megan. I was just messaging you back. You guys ready for the school year?
Hey, today was our first day.
We
Oh,
First day.
really?
Today was our
First-
first day.
With
Yeah.
students?
Yeah, they're out there somewhere doing something. I'm in here at this meeting.
Yay. Well, thank you for
Yay.
hopping on, even though it's the first day of school.
No problem.
That's commitment now.
Yeah. All right. See you guys soon.
Bye. Have a
Bye.
great first day. Hi, Tiffany.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Doing good. Hey, Sandy was going to message you in just a little bit to get those times from the 18th to make sure that we
Perfect.
all have the right times.
Okay, perfect.
All right.
I'll be
thanks.
watching.
Have a
You're
good-
welcome. Have a great day. Okay, we'll hang out for just a few more minutes if anybody has any questions or needs any information. Okay, it doesn't look like anybody has any more questions, so I hope you join us next time and have a great rest of the week. Thank you.